Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. This is my retrospective on Masters of the Universe Origins Wave 2. Now, I imagine this will be a pretty short retrospective because this is the smallest wave in the entire Origins line up to this point, consisting of only 4 figures. There were no larger, deluxe figures or 2-packs or anything to flesh this wave out. It's just these 4 characters. And this second wave consists of the Evil Warriors, Scareglow and Trapjaw, and the Heroic Warriors, Orko and Manny Faces. Now, one thing I do like about this wave, despite it being a very small one, is that it brings a lot of really interesting and new things to the table after Wave 1. Wave 1, really went out of its way to establish, the core cast of your He-Man universe, right? You got He-Man and Skeletor, Evelyn, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Battle-Cat, kind of just your A-listers. This wave is a little more experimental in that it introduces figures that are very unique when it comes to, the parts that are used or even their, very body shape, like in the case of Orko. And then you get one figure who has some more familiar tooling, but he was a very obscure character until recently, and that's, our Scareglow here, who, despite all appearances, is not just a glow-in-the-dark Skeletor. So this retrospective, like ones I've done before, will be just kind of an overall recap of each of the figures and then my thoughts on the wave as a whole. So I guess we'll just go left to right here. So first we'll take a look at Scareglow, who is basically just a new head Skeletor, right? He still has a skull for a face, but no hood on it. He gets his really cool cape, which was so realistic looking, I actually mistook it for fabric. And then he gets his little scythe that I just dropped. They call it a scythe. I think it looks more like a poleaxe, but I don't know. They call it a scythe. He has this really cool glow-in-the-dark feature, hence the name Scareglow. In fact, let me go ahead and show it off once again for anyone that hasn't seen his review. There you go. I've cut down the lighting so you can see how well his glow-in-the-dark feature works. And even though I've got some sunlight still coming in the room, he shines quite well even in this, lower light. So his glow-in-the-dark feature works very, very well. I don't know how it compares to the original. I'm not sure how, what the quality of the glow-in-the-dark plastic of that toy was, but this new one is, very satisfactory in my opinion. So Scareglow is very cool, but he doesn't really bring much new to the table. So then we move on to Trapjaw, who introduced a ton of new tooling here. In fact, just about every part of his body is new compared to the Wave 1 figures. Of course, the head's different because almost all the characters have a different head. But the chest piece is a new custom chest piece that, while it resembles the regular, He-Man or Skeletor one, it has this molded on, metal, grafting that his arm connects to. And of course, the robotic arm is all new. Even his regular arm is all new pieces, having some tech detailings on the shoulder, kind of a nice little green bracer here, and even a glove-like hand. Gets this cool new belt that holds his extra accessories that aren't in use. The only part of him that's the same right here is the loincloth area. And then he gets all new legs, which look like some sort of mechanized boots. So he does a lot of really new, interesting stuff and has, one of the highest amounts of play value out of any of the MOTU toys. Also, his jaw opens and closes. That's cool, right? Do a little stop motion, make him talk. And even gets a little hole so you can make him zip line into battle if you want to. I don't know why that was ever decided to be a feature. Kind of silly. Seems impractical, but, MOTU can be a silly line at times. So Trapjaw is really, really cool. And must have been a pretty high demand item because he went for some pretty high prices on the secondary market. All right, next up is the Court Wizard, Orko, or Court Magician, I guess they call him. Now, Orko is just completely different. He doesn't share any tooling because he's just a little floating wizard guy. Kind of reminds me of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, just, can't walk, he floats. Oh, maybe he can walk. I don't know. Has he ever been shown to have feet? I have no idea. So Orko, of course, is a really small character, so they help flesh him out by giving this nice little posable base, and it does all this cool stuff and rotates, and, we got to go look at that in the review. His arms are very posable and has the same amount of posability as any of the other MOTU figure arms, despite being completely different pieces. And the head's on the double ball joint, as you'd expect, so you can get that. Look at his cute little innocent face there, little black mage-like face. And it's funny because Orko predates Final Fantasy, so You gotta wonder if Final Fantasy didn't steal the look from him first. Plus he gets the O on his robe for, I guess, for Orko, right? So overall, very cool. I love like the little sparkly effect they put in the purple cloud base to make it look magical. So yeah, I mean, Orko's definitely an odd one. He's very unconventional for a MOTU figure, but it's not anything new. There was an Orko figure in the vintage line, and it actually looked quite a bit different from this one. They really decided to modernize his look with this toy and make him a lot more cartoon accurate. All right, now lastly, we come to Many Faces. And his gimmick, of course, is the fact that he has many faces. So you get his weird little egg-shaped helmet thing going on, which the torso and the helmet and all that, that's all new pieces. The loincloth area is a new piece. The legs he shares with Trapjaw. And then his arms appear to be brand new too. So that's very cool. And then you get to his main gimmick, of course, which is turning his head around to make different faces. He has a robot one, a monster one, and then his standard human one. That goes with his whole thing of being an actor and kind of a master of disguise. And then he just gets like a little cartoonish little laser pistol thing, because, I don't know, I guess every actor needs a laser pistol. Oh. So, yeah, Many Faces, really goofy looking guy. Kind of makes me think of a mechanized Humpty Dumpty, but he is still very cool and very unique. And this line, for the most part, is all about uniqueness. And, you know, they set a lot of precedent with certain parts usages that they do go on to, you know, be seen in some other figures here and there, but a lot of the parts are relegated specifically to these characters. All right, so there it is. That is, you know, our look at our 4 figures. Again, it's a very short retrospective because this was a tiny, tiny wave. But it was apparently a very popular one because I had to pay a lot of money for most of these figures to get them, you know, after they came out. Overall, I'm very pleased with this wave. I think all the characters are very cool. I like the quirkiness and the uniqueness of, you know, these 3 right here, and I love just the sheer awesomeness of Scareglow. I mean, he is a bad-looking dude. Now, personally, I do wish his scythe actually looked like a Reaper scythe and not this poleaxe thing, but, you know, that's a precedent that was set decades ago, so no use complaining about it now. And apparently it must be iconic enough because even the Revelation version of Scareglow is going to have a recreation of this very weapon. So I guess people like it. I would prefer something more like a sickle, but, you know, it is what it is. It's still cool. And even though the weapon itself doesn't glow in the dark, it still has that kind of neon green quality that makes it look like it does glow in the dark. Trapjaw, I think, is just loaded with awesomeness. He's one of my favorite figures so far. I mean, he's just got so much cool stuff going on. The fact that they took the time to make his robotic arm just as posable as his regular arm is really cool. He's got all the accessories and actually has somewhere to store them. Orko, he's neat just for his uniqueness. I don't know if he's necessarily an outstanding figure. He doesn't do a whole lot. But, you know, if you are a bit of completionist and want your core cast of characters, you're obviously going to care about getting an Orko. And he's a fair value for, you know, what you're paying for him. Well, if you're paying retail. Probably going to pay a lot more than that now. But yeah, he's really cool. I enjoy the base. I like that it's very articulated. And I think I enjoy him a lot more than I would the vintage one, which seemed very lackluster to me. And then Many Faces. Visually, not one of my favorite designs. I do think he is really goofy looking. He kind of looks like what would happen if like Humpty Dumpty and a WWE wrestler had a child. So, you know, he's odd. But he's still very cool, right? His whole background information as him being an actor and being able to take on roles seamlessly plays into his whole toy gimmick, which is implemented very well. And I was kind of surprised that the head itself does rotate and turn independently of the face rotation. I thought it was just going to be a static piece. I don't know whether or not it was a static piece on the original, but I would bet probably yeah. I doubt his head actually turned on the original. So it's cool he gets that added posability. Now, it can't look up or down, but, you know, based on the shape of it and all that, I'm satisfied with what we get. So overall, I like all these figures. I'm happy that I managed to track them all down. Scareglow, ironically enough, was the easiest one to find and the cheapest, despite the original toy being very rare. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, while I am disappointed that the wave isn't as fleshed out as any of the other ones, it kind of trades quantity for quality, because I feel like these are some of the coolest figures in Masters of the Universe, both Vintage and Origins. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers everything I want to say about this wave. Like I said, I'm a big fan of these figures. I think they're all really cool in their own ways, whether it's just through sheer awesomeness or through features, quirkiness, they all bring something to the table that makes them not just another He-Man clone. So I do very much like them for that. I do recommend picking these up if you're into He-Man. Just be warned that at this point in time, because these came out last year, you're going to have a hard time finding them close to retail, except maybe Scareglow. So whether or not it's worth it to you really depends on, your certain financial situation and your collecting priorities, so there's a lot of factors that go into there. If you think they're affordable, though, and you can get them for a decent enough price, I think you'll enjoy them. They're all a lot of fun. Orko, if you don't have an interest in the character himself, maybe a little boring for you as a toy, because he's just a little floaty guy. But I think his design is quirky and interesting enough to where I enjoy him, even if Orko's original characterization just annoys me relentlessly. He really redeems himself in Revelation, which is great. They finally flesh him out and make him a sympathetic character instead of just like the irritating comic relief. Make him something more than the equivalent of that irritating dwarf in the live-action He-Man movie. What's that guy's name again? I don't remember. I can't stand him. I think he speaks in rhyme, so he's basically Wheelie, but a dwarf. So yeah, if you got the funds, I say pick these guys up. They're all a lot of fun. But if money's not on your side, then at least some of these probably can be skipped without really breaking your heart. Of course, that is just how I feel about these guys. So now I want to know what you thought of this wave. Do you think some or all of these characters are must-haves, or are you not interested in them? Do you think they're too weird or they're too obscure in some cases? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this retrospective, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this retrospective of admittedly a very small second wave of Masters of the Universe Origins. And with all that said, I will see you next time.